Close your eye and imagine an idyllic neighborhood nestled in a quiet valley or atop a gentle hill. Perhaps call it St. Augustine's Hollow, a serene neighborhood built around the heart of Catholic life. At its center stands a beautiful stone church called Our Lady of Grace, with a bell tower that calls the faithful to daily mass. The church grounds include a Marian grotto surrounded by rose bushes and outdoor stations of the cross path winding through a wooded area and a parish garden tended by volunteers. Radiating from the church are cobblestone streets lined with homes featuring small front gardens, crucifixes above doorways, and welcoming porches where neighbors often pray the rosary together in the evening. Life in the Hollow revolves around the liturgical calendar. Residents celebrate feast days with processions, festivals, and shared meals in the parish hall. Children attend St. Scholastica Academy, a small classical Catholic school known for its rigorous academics and emphasis on virtue formation. The curriculum includes Latin theology and daily morning prayer. And across from the school is a Catholic bookstore and cafe where people gather for spiritual reading groups, theology discussions, or a quiet espresso after morning mass. Residents volunteer at the St. Vincent de Paul House, a charitable outreach center offering meals and support to the less fortunate. Elders are respected and often seen leading prayer groups or sharing stories of the faith with the younger generation. Community bulletin boards post novena schedules, Eucharistic adoration hours, and upcoming baptisms and weddings. Life in St. Augustine's Hollow moves at a contemplative pace. There's a strong culture of hospitality, modesty, and shared spiritual life. Families mark Sunday with reverence, Mass, a hearty brunch, and quiet rest. In the evening, windows glow warmly as families pray together, creating a harmony of faith, tradition, and neighborly love. Now, when you hear this description, what feelings does this invoke in you? Perhaps peace and serenity, belonging and community, sacredness and reverence? Yes. Now, imagine, instead of an idyllic Catholic-centric neighborhood, the chosen religion of the people of St. Augustine's Hollow is Islam. And it isn't St. Augustine's Hollow. It's Epic City, an idyllic Islamic-centric neighborhood just outside of Josephine, Texas, in the United States. Epic City is a proposed master-planned Islamic community envisioned by the East Plano Islamic Center, or EPIC, spanning 402 acres across Collin and Hunt counties. The development aims to create an inclusive environment centered around Muslim values while welcoming individuals from all backgrounds. The plan includes over 1,000 homes, a masjid, a K-12 faith-based school, a community college, senior living facilities, retail shops, clinics, and a sports field. Now, when you hear that, does that also invoke peace and serenity, belonging and community, sacredness and reverence? Apparently not. I've got some explaining to do. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Ayana Explains It All, the podcast bridging the gap between current events and human behavior. I am your host, Ayana R. Fakhir, your Black Muslim lady lawyer who has an opinion on everything, and I do mean everything. The podcast is available on all major and minor, I don't want to leave anybody out, streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and a host of others. I'm going to direct you to our website, www.ayanaexplainsitall.com. That's www.ayana explainsitall.com. There you will find information on the podcast, how to get in touch with the host, me, Ayana Fakhir. Links to all of the streaming sites are available on the website. All of the episodes of the show are available on the website as well. Also, ways to support the podcast. You can find that on there, ways to collaborate on the podcast. I'm always open to accepting guest hosts, guest speakers, anything you want to talk about. You want to take over my podcast and talk about something interesting. You have something to explain. You want the people to know about. I'm here. I'm available. Let's do it. Let's work together. Also, you will find show notes, transcripts for every episode, the artwork, all things podcasts that you could possibly ever want to know are available on the show's website. Also, you can find Ayana Explains It All on the interwebs social medias. We are on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, even the dreaded X. We're also on Threads. You can follow us there. You can get previews of every episode. If you want to hear a snippet before you dive into the episode, that's what you will find on our social medias. Also, you can follow me, the host, on my social medias. I have a bunch of different names, but you can follow me on Facebook under Ayana Fakhir. You can follow me on Instagram under LawGirl2, which is LAWGURRL2. And also you can follow me on TikTok under my name, Ayana Fakhir. My last name is spelled Fakhir. I know it's a lot of consonants. It's a lot. I didn't come up with it, but there you go. Also, share this show with a friend or a loved one or non-loved one. So many people need to know what's going on in the world, and tell them you know this Black Muslim lady lawyer who has an opinion on everything, who's going to take you to school. Literally. Sometimes I feel like I'm a teacher or professor lecturing a class. I do fun episodes every now and again. I know how to have fun on this podcast, but there's so much going on in the world, especially in the United States right now. There's so much going on that there's a lot we need to straighten out. There's a lot of straightening that needs to be done. And this particular topic is something that has been on my mind since January of a particular date, when a particular person was installed in the United States as its leader. But the concept of religious liberty in the United States, and it starts way, way back at our founding, right? The concept of religious liberty is deeply ingrained in the United States history. And the journey begins with the early settlers, many of whom fled Europe seeking freedom from religious persecution. Their experiences in the New World laid the groundwork for a nation where faith could be practiced freely without fear of retribution. Whereas, in fact, the early settlers were religious extremists who wanted to practice their version of Christianity without being told they couldn't by the crown. The crown had an idea. The king and the church were the same thing. And they were like, nah, we want to do something else. Where can we do this at? Where? Oh, we know. The New World. So they came here so that they could practice their brand of Christianity, which included apparently burning women alive because they were witches or something. During the colonial era, various colonies had different approaches to religious freedom. For instance, the colony of Maryland was established as a haven for Catholics, while Pennsylvania, under William Penn's leadership, embraced a policy of religious tolerance. These early examples showcase the diversity of thought regarding religious practice and the importance of ensuring freedom of all belief systems. Now, fast forward to the drafting of the Constitution, and we find a pivotal moment for religious liberty, the First Amendment. Yes, the First Amendment. Did you know that there was a 1 amendment and then a 2A? People always forget about the 1A. The 1A came before the 2A. People love the 2A. They love that 2A, honey. But I'm going to talk about the 1A. Ratified in 1791, the First Amendment explicitly prohibits Congress from making laws respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That means the government cannot establish religion through any law whatsoever, cannot say that this religious practice should be practiced, should be enforced, should be the religion of all the people. Can't do that. And they cannot prevent you, the person. Anybody present in the United States, by the way, is covered by the Constitution. They cannot prevent you from exercising your freedom of religion or no religion. You don't want to practice a religion? You ain't got to. This clause, this freedom of religion clause, forms the bedrock of religious freedom in the United States, ensuring that individuals can practice their faith openly without government intrusion, which is wonderful. We don't want the government in our religious business, just like the early settlers didn't want the king, the crown, telling them how to practice Christianity. They didn't want none of that, so they left. If you're in the United States, you ain't got to leave. I mean, you can if you want to. Thomas Jefferson, who was one of the founding fathers, Thomas the Jefferson said, "I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." And he said that in 1802. Now, Thomas Jefferson, believe it or not, was not a Christian. I know that a lot of Americans like to advance the idea that this country was founded on good old-fashioned Christian values, but that simply is not true. No, a lot of the founding fathers were spiritualists. Thomas Jefferson was a deist or deist. How do you pronounce that word? Is it deist? He was a deist. He was spiritual, believed in God, but organized religion was not for him. He was not somebody who was going to church. He is famously a founding father who kept a copy of the Quran with him in his papers and things. It's at the National Archives. But, I mean, it's not like he followed any of the things in the Quran. I mean, the Quran came at a time where slavery was being practiced in the Arab world, and it had rules for slavery and slaveholders and the treatment of slaves. So if he had read it, he would have known that he was running afoul of at least how Muslims see God and religious practices. But Thomas Jefferson knew the evils of slavery, but refused to end it during his tenure. Yeah, he used to say all the time, yeah, slavery is evil, shouldn't be practiced. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would think he was an abolitionist, right? Not at all. Despite his disdain for slavery, he still kept slaves. He still kept them. He still didn't try to end slavery, but he did try to help them migrate back to Africa. The United States had an idea that they were going to free some slaves and then send them back to Africa. That's why the country of Liberia exists. Liberia was created for freed slaves from the United States, when actuality, all they did was take a bunch of slaves and dump them in this land that had already been settled and said, here, this is your new home. And they basically had to fight for survival against the people who were already settled there, already living there, already had established communities. It was ridiculous. And it didn't work. And it was very expensive. And the country didn't want to pay for it. And so they said, that's it. We're going to stop. I can't remember how many made it over there. It was a number far below what they expected it to be. But yeah, he was a deist. He could have used some Hebrew studies. He could have used some Islamic studies. But the point is, the founding fathers believed in religious liberty. Over the many years since that amendment was passed, the country has needed legislation and court cases and court challenges to essentially define or better explain what is the right to religious freedom. What does it mean? How can it be applied? And we made a lot of mistakes along the way, a lot of mistakes. And we've had to right a lot of wrongs when it comes to freedom of religion. And some landmark cases include Reynolds versus United States from 1879, where the Supreme Court upheld a federal law banning polygamy, stating that religious duty was not a defense to a criminal indictment. This case established the principle that while religious beliefs are protected, religious practices may be subject to regulation. Can you believe that? You can practice your religion, but we get to say what you can do. Makes no damn sense. No sense whatsoever. My beliefs inform how I practice my religion. So how can you regulate my practices but tell me it's okay if I believe what I believe? Makes no sense, right? That was a lot of the early cases in the U.S. Supreme Court. A lot of the early cases just made no damn sense, except that they wanted to curtail what they saw as strange and unusual. They didn't want people practicing things that they saw as outside the realm of like normative religious practices. One man, one woman are the husband and wife, and you have kids, and you go to church, and you read the Bible, and that's it. And you probably have some government mixed in there. Some government, certainly. Could have no government involved. I mean, that's crazy. Is that against the law or something? Oh, it is. Another significant development came with sherbet. That is sherbet, like the frozen ice cream treat. Sherbet versus Verner of 1963, where the Supreme Court introduced the sherbet test. Sounds yummy. This test requires that any government action that substantially burdens a person's ability to practice their religion must be justified by a compelling state interest and be the least restrictive means of achieving that interest. Again, any government action that substantially burdens a person's ability to practice their religion must be justified by a compelling state interest and be the least restrictive means of achieving that interest. This test strengthened the protection of religious practices against government interference. And in recent years, the landscape of religious liberty has continued to evolve. Cases such as Burwell versus Hobby Lobby from 2014 and Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission of 2018 have sparked debates over the balance between religious freedom and other civil rights. Like, if my religion says that homosexuality is a sin, do I have to, as a baker, bake a cake for a gay wedding? The Supreme Court says, no, you don't. You don't have to. Do I, as a photographer, have to take pictures of a gay couple or for a gay wedding? Can I refuse that service? Can I refuse that job? The Supreme Court says yes. Yes, you can. These decisions have sparked debates over the balance between religious freedom and other civil rights. These decisions reflect the ongoing dialogue surrounding the scope and limits of religious liberty in a diverse society. And why am I telling you any of this? Because I'm laying the foundation for the discussion that I'm about to have about how the government actually actively engages in the curtailment of practicing religion and how the government is moving to establish religion in the United States. It's incredible how it's happening. It's happening in real time. We're seeing it and we're not helpless or powerless to stop it. We just don't want to be bothered because, it has to do with a religion that a lot of people practice, one that a lot of people like, one that a lot of people don't have a problem with. So what's so bad about Christianity ruling the country? Maybe because there are other religions and other religious practices, and we have a First Amendment that says Congress shall make no laws establishing the practice of a religion. And it's not just Congress. It's your city council. It's your state legislature. It's your senator. It's your president. It's everybody. Anybody in government cannot force you to practice a religion or abide by the rules of a particular religion. That's it. However, the current executive director of the United States government unilaterally decided that there was a war on Christianity. Now, he's been talking about this since his first administration in 2016. And in the first 100 days of his second administration, he established the Religious Liberty Commission to study religious liberty in America and then publish a comprehensive report on strategies to increase awareness of and celebrates America's peaceful religious pluralism, current threats to religious liberty, and strategies to preserve and enhance protections for future generations. He also established a White House faith office, presumably to, as he stated, root out anti-Christian bias in the federal government. And he directed his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to investigate the targeting of Christians in the federal government, which presumes that there is a rise in hate crimes or hate speech against Christians, or their right to religious liberty is being curtailed. None of that is true.
None of it's true. None of it's true. It's BS. They made it up. They lie.
There's no war on Christians. There's no war on Christian thought. There's no war on Christianity. There's no curtailing of the practice of Christian faith in the federal government or outside of the federal government. There's no war on Christmas, no war on Santa. There's no war on any of this. It's all made up. It's more bullshit made up to advance Christian nationalism. It's actually Jewish people who face the most faith-based hate crimes in the United States. Then it's Muslims. And in fact, hate crimes against Jewish people and Muslims have risen since 2023. They've actually gone up substantially since Donald Trump's first presidency against Jews and Muslims, not Christians. Once again, as I have said many times on my program, you're being lied to and you're being manipulated. And for some of you, you're just going along with it. I recently wrapped up reading this book, Tyranny of the Minority, and the authors make some great points about the rise of Christian nationalism in the United States. And I'm just going to read from this. They say that much of the resistance to multicultural democracy took the form of white Christian nationalism, or what the sociologist Philip Gorski describes as the belief that the United States was founded by white Christians and that white Christians are in danger of becoming a persecuted national minority. White Christians are now less a religious group than an ethnic and political one. Although white evangelical Christians were most likely to hold these beliefs, a growing number of conservative white Catholics and secular white nationalists did too. White Christian nationalism helped fuel the Tea Party movement, which emerged in February 2009, barely a month after Obama took office, following nationwide protests on April 15th. 2009. The Tea Party mushroomed into a mass movement with hundreds of local organizations, nearly 500,000 members, and some 45 million supporters. The Tea Party was a classic reactionary movement constituted disproportionately by older white and evangelical Christian Americans who were determined to take their country back. Surveys showed Tea Party members to be overwhelmingly anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, and resistant to ethnic and cultural diversity. According to political scientists, Tea Party members perceived themselves to be losing their country to groups they failed to recognize as real Americans. Yeah, so according to these nearly 500,000 members and 45 million supporters, people like me are not real Americans. Islam is not compatible with an American way of life. And you will see from many Republican politicians, some still currently in office, they have a history of anti-Islamic rhetoric, of advancing anti-Islamic rhetoric, anti-Islamic thought, and anti-Islamic legislation. And they worked for Donald Trump in his first presidency, and now they're working for him and with him in his second presidency. One of the most prominent figures is from Donald Trump's first presidency, Mike Pompeo, who was put up to be the director of the CIA under Trump's first presidency. He flat out admitted before he became director of the CIA that he regards the religion of Islam as antithetical to the American way of life. And even though Donald Trump recently hosted the first iftar Ramadan dinner of his presidency ever, Donald Trump also feels the same way about Islam and Muslims. He's anti-Islamic. He's anti-Muslim. He's very good, though, at smiling in the face of these same people to get them to support him. And he did receive a lot of support from some Muslims during his presidential bid in 2024. He's openly anti-Muslim, and yet Muslims were flocking to vote for him, which I will never understand. But again, we live in a time where people do things that jeopardize their freedom and liberties without any thought whatsoever, with only one thought running through their heads, is that they can gain some kind of financial advantage by aligning themselves with the worst person on earth because he has money, he has wealth, he has power, he has influence. They align themselves with him, well, then maybe he'll break them off a piece. Maybe they'll benefit somehow. So they're willing to toss out their rights, their religious liberties, their dignity, if that means they can gain an advantage somehow, a financial advantage, a political advantage even. Maybe he'll help them get a job in the White House or at a corporation or something, a Fortune 500 company. Remember when Donald Trump attempted to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. during his first presidential term? Rudy Giuliani helped him craft an executive order that essentially banned Muslims from entering the U.S., and he was rebuffed by the Supreme Court, rightfully so. You can't ban people of a specific religion from entering the country. And then they retooled it to make it into a travel ban for people entering the United States from certain countries. And so we saw on TV a lot of people being held in detention centers at airports because they were not allowed in the U.S., including doctors who were coming to the U.S., to work, to perform operations, to learn, to hone their skills, to learn to practice medicine in the U.S. Doctors we desperately needed were banned from entering the country because they happened to come from Saudi Arabia or Libya or Egypt or Morocco. It was insane. It was insane. And Mike Pompeo, prior to his time as director of the CIA and as a representative for the U.S. House of Representatives, expressed his disdain for Muslims and Islam, and he was put in charge of the CIA. Mike Pompeo, in fact, said of a local mosque in his district when he was a congressman, he published a statement denouncing the group, the Islamic Society of Wichita, Kansas, for inviting a speaker he alleged had ties to Hamas. Okay? They always have ties to Hamas, right? They always have ties to Hamas or the Houthis or ISIS or some kind of terror group. These people the politicians manage to find something in a tribute to these people and say, look, we should not let them in the U.S. We shouldn't have these people speaking anywhere near us. But the speaker that they had invited had spoken 4 times at the masjid in the past without incident. And suddenly, here it is, this wave of anti-Islamic rhetoric going around, floating around. And this went on, it went back and forth, and it was just absurd. It was absurd. The rhetoric, the discussion was absurd. Mike Pompeo went on an entire campaign against Muslims and Islam, especially the Muslims of his community. And a lot of this information I am getting from online news articles, which I will put links to in my show notes so that you can find all of them. Pompeo never apologized. He never admitted he was wrong. He just went on about his business. And as the director of the CIA, he could advance anti-Muslim campaigns, now using the office of the White House in his schemes. The fact that people have to come out and loudly proclaim that not every Muslim is a terrorist, first of all, it pisses me off. We know that. And if people want to believe that every Muslim is a terrorist, believe whatever the hell you want. If you want to be lied to and manipulated, if you want to believe the worst about people, if you want to believe stereotypes, if you want to believe fantasies and whatever the absolute worst things about people, that is your business. Just stay the hell away from me. Again, Donald Trump in his second term has argued that Christianity is under attack, and he's established these commissions in this office to investigate it, although he makes it seem like it's really to make certain that religious liberties are respected throughout the country. It's really to advance Christian nationalism in the United States. Even his own vice president is a proponent of taking the country back to its traditional Christian values, which it doesn't have any traditional Christian values, certainly nothing that was practiced by the early settlers had anything to do with Christianity. Slavery, genocide, murder, burning people alive for what you saw as them practicing witchcraft, raping women, eating slaves. What did that have to do with Christianity? But this is what the early settlers and the founding fathers, this is what they practiced. They practiced genocide. They were slave holders. They practiced mass importing of human beings to work as slaves on their land, stripped them of their language, their cultural practices, their religious practices even, forced them to have sex with their slave masters, breeded them, sold their children off, forced them to work back-breakingly in the sun for long hours, for some food, certainly no pay. And they were beaten whenever the slave master felt the desire to beat them. They were subjugated. They were degraded. Tell me what that has to do with Christianity. Where are those good old-fashioned Christian values at, J.D. Vance? And I learned recently that both of the senators from my state of Ohio will be appearing at a luncheon hosted by a Christian nationalist organization. If that doesn't scream loudly that this is what is happening, I don't know what else will. This is happening, people. Christian nationalism is being pushed and advanced through the U.S. government. It's happening. What are we going to do about it? It's a will and it's a way that's being imposed on the American people that courts have so far been stopping. But the thought, you cannot stop thought with a court case, with a judge's order. You cannot stop people acting based upon a thought that was put into their head by a religious extremist. You cannot stop people from being upset and angry when people of another particular religion try to establish a neighborhood that is Islamic centric, or when they try to build a masjid or invite a speaker to speak at their masjid. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It goes so deep, ladies and gentlemen. It goes so deep. Siding with the politics. Remember, I said Donald Trump has a lot of politicians on his side when it comes to this religious movement. Siding with the politics of Donald Trump is Senator John Cornyn of Texas. Senator John Cornyn asked the United States Department of Justice to investigate Epic City. Epic City is already being investigated by the governor of Texas for some reason, the State House of Texas for some reason, and they've done nothing. They actually haven't even started building anything yet. Just the smell of Muslims wanting to have a life in the United States centered around our religion angers the whites. It angers the white Christian nationalists because you know what? They're afraid of that Sharia. They're going to bring Sharia to the United States, and I'm scared. And I'm not even going to take the time to explain to you what Sharia is. It's not even what you think it is. I mean, if you picked up a copy of the Quran and you read it, that's all history and law. And you would be fascinated to find out the laws of Islam. They actually favor people. They favor children. They favor the elderly. They favor women. They favor, remember I told you slavery was being practiced when the Quran was revealed. So it favors slaves, favors widows, unmarried. There are laws about inheritance rights. There are laws about marriage and divorce. It favors children, tells you how to treat your children, how to treat your parents, how to treat your neighbors, how to treat your enemies, how to treat people during wartime, how to treat prisoners, how to do right by people who are not of your same religious faith. It's all about mercy, kindness, fairness, justice. But you don't want Sharia. No, they're going to bring that Sharia and the women, they're going to be wearing those scarves and they're going to be covered up, and the men, oh no, and they're going to be doing that call to prayer and they're going to be praying. Did you know that they get down on their knees when they pray? Don't you do the same thing? And if I recall, women used to wear hair bonnets when they went to church. In fact, if you make your way to some Eastern European countries, the older women you will find cover their hair when they are entering church. And there's this other group of women that cover their hair. They're Christian, Catholic really. I think they're called nuns. I think that's what they're called. When I first heard of what was happening to Epic City, I was outdone, because what have these people done to deserve an investigation by the governor of the state of Texas? The governor of the state of Texas does not get involved in what people in some small town in one of his counties are doing. He doesn't get involved. You will see him at the Super Bowl or some kind of wrestling match. But this is not his business, but he has made it his business. This is from the Dallas Morning News. They said that the U.S. Department of Justice has launched a civil rights investigation into Epic City, the planned Muslim-centric development near Dallas. U.S. Senator John Cornyn said U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi told Cornyn that the Department of Justice would open an investigation in response to a request from the Texas Republican last month, according to a statement from the senator's office. Cornyn expressed concern that those involved in the planned development could discriminate against Jewish and Christian Texans. In his April letter, Cornyn alleged that Community Capital Partners, who is in charge of the project, may be violating the Fair Housing Act of 1968 after the group initially advertised that it would limit sales to only persons we believe will contribute to the overall makeup of our community and are legally eligible to invest and buy property in the United States. According to previous language on the group's website for Epic City, Cornyn also said it may be appropriate for federal investigators to determine if developers are following state and federal prohibitions on the enforcement of Sharia law. Sharia law is like saying chai tea. Y'all sound so dumb. If you could see my face right now. I mean, you could if I had done this on video, but it's audio. If you could see my face right now, the disgusted look on my face, because people are so fucking stupid when it comes to Islam and what Muslims practice and what Muslims believe. You're so ignorant. And you're fine with being ignorant. You're fine with being upset about Muslims all the time. You're fine with stoking and flaming the fires of resentment and anger towards Muslims, because you know that keeps people on your side. It keeps this joke running. As long as you keep the people scared, they'll keep coming back to you to protect them, right? They'll keep looking to you and electing you and giving you their votes and their money so you'll protect them from the big bad Muslims. And I have to tell you that Muslims are very concerned with one thing and one thing only, and that is getting to heaven. And that ain't got shit to do with you. It ain't got shit to do with nobody except the individual. We are very concerned with getting to heaven. Very. Like, that is our main concern. In fact, it is really the only thing we should care about. And how do we get to heaven? Through righteous acts. Righteous acts don't include doing harm to any person whatsoever. You worship God. You pay the poor due. You pray 5 times a day. You give charity. So if we want to build a masjid in your town, who the F cares? Who cares? Why care? All we want to do is pray and congregate. We're, for the most part, friendly, neighborly, good people. There are a lot of bad apples. Bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch. I could say, yeah, there are a lot of bad Christians, a lot of bad Jews, a lot of bad Hindus, Sikhs. Well, duh. But me saying that isn't going to make you feel better about Muslims. You don't like us because of the propaganda that has been spread against us, particularly after September 11th, 2001, and all the wars the United States has fought in the Middle East, all the bombings, the drone strikes, and what is currently happening in Palestine only serve to further erode your brain when it comes to Muslims and Islam. You have no thought outside of a negative one for us in our religion. We are happy just living our lives, doing our thing, paying taxes. I pay a lot of taxes. I tend to my garden. I love my garden. It's flourishing. It's spring. It's May 11th, 2025. It's spring, and the sun has finally decided to consistently show up in Northeast Ohio. And I was outside, and I had my hands in a bag of soil and cow manure, and I was spreading it in my garden. And that's what I do. I wave hello to my neighbors. I stop and talk to them. I go to the local grocery store, and I buy food. I cook food. I eat food. I stroll around town. I drive around town. I got a kid in college and a kid in high school. I'm just a person who happens to be Muslim. What you see when you look at me is your business, honey. I have no desire to prove or disprove anything. It's not even my business. That's your business. If you want to know about Islam, you ask me a question, I'll answer it. But honey, it is not my job to reroute you, to reroute your map, honey. If you are misguided, that is your problem. There's so much knowledge available. Now you even got something that'll look on Google for you. You won't even have to look on Google. ChatGPT will look on Google for you, bring up the information, tell you everything you needed to know. There's also this thing you can do. You go into this building and I don't know if you guys have this where you live at, but you get this card and you go into this building and you select a book, and then you give the person at the front desk your card, and they let you take the book home with you for a couple weeks so you can read it and gain some knowledge in that small head of yours. And then when you're done, you take the book back and you get another one. You could take out 10 at a time if you want to. And hopefully when you do, you read them and you analyze the information presented before you. We as Muslims are concerned with ourselves in our daily practice, our daily prayers, making it to heaven. But you all are obsessed with us. You're obsessed. Oh, the dolls, they're obsessed. You're obsessed and stressed, honey. Chill out, baby. Chill out, baby. Chill out, baby. Building masjids in the United States has often encountered challenges stemming from a mix of legal, political, and social resistance. These challenges usually relate to zoning laws, community opposition, and in all cases, Islamophobia. My opinion. Now, Epic City is managed, as I said, by Community Capital Partners, which is a for-profit entity formed by Epic members. Investors in the project can reserve lots by purchasing shares in the CCP, with the investment credited toward home purchases. The project also encompasses 2 additional developments, which is Epic Ranches 1 and 2, offering larger residential lots nearby. Since its announcement in 2024, Epic has faced significant political and public scrutiny, as I mentioned before. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and also Attorney General Ken Paxton, who survived a recall attempt. They've raised concerns about the project's legality, alleging potential violations of state laws and suggesting it might promote Sharia or create a no-go zone by which no one who isn't Muslim or who lives in the neighborhood can traverse through. Of course, these claims have been refuted strongly by Epic leaders who emphasize the project's compliance with U.S. laws and its inclusive nature. But people see whatever they want to see. So there's that. Multiple state agencies, including the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers. Why are they involved? Why are the dudes who wear the giant ass cowboy hats, who look ridiculous, walking around in cowboy hats every day, enforcing the law, why are they involved? Why is the State Securities Board and the Texas Funeral Services Commission involved? They've all initiated investigations into various aspects of the project. And this is all despite the fact that no construction has started on this project at all whatsoever. It's still in the planning phase, working to meet all regulatory requirements as any capital investor building of a building would do. Even a building of a house has a planning phase. You got to get permits and shit. Even if you want to farm, you got to get permits. You can't just farm anywhere. Can't just build a house anywhere. Can't just build a masjid anywhere, or even a church. You can't just build something somewhere. You got to get permission. I know. All of this government, this red tape. Oh, why can't we just do what we want? But the controversy about Epic City has sparked broader discussions about religious freedom, community planning, and political rhetoric in Texas, which is pretty awful. The political rhetoric in Texas is awful. The political rhetoric coming out of Texas is awful. It's awful. The word is ignorant, actually. Supporters of Epic argue that the opposition is rooted in Islamophobia because it is, and political maneuvering because it is. While critics express concerns about the project's impact on local infrastructure and community dynamics. Oh my God, they're going to change the community. Oh no, it's not going to be lily white anymore. Won't someone please think of the whites? Won't someone think of the whites, please? We've suffered so much. They've suffered so much, Lord, please. They have suffered so much, Lord. Won't someone think of them, please? Their rights, their cultural freedom of expression is being curtailed, Lord. It's being threatened by the people who wear all that fabric on their head. And they speak that different language. I think it's called Arabic. Of course, religious freedom, the U.S. Constitution protects it, but we're tossing out the Constitution whenever it suits us. We're just tearing it up. We're taking a flame to that baby. This is what hate does. This is what hate does. It doesn't make things easier. It doesn't make things smoother. It just makes shit difficult. Makes it painful. Makes it harder just to live, to breathe. So why choose hate? Why choose ignorance? Why choose bigotry? Why make that choice? Why get up every day and say, you know what? I think today I'm going to hate some Muslims. And when I see a Muslim, I'm going to spit on them. When I see them going to buy ice cream, I'm going to berate them and tell them to go back to their country. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. About what? About religion. About the practice of religion in a country that has religious liberties literally as the First Amendment to its Constitution. The first thing that the founding fathers were concerned about was people being able to practice their religion as they saw fit without government intrusion. And in my own area, two very prominent examples that this isn't the first time, that this is something that we continue to encounter because of the hatred of Muslims in the United States of America. In April 2018, the North Ridgeville City Council approved plans for the West Cleveland Muslim Association to build a masjid and community center. Despite the approval, the proposal faced criticism from some residents who raised concerns about increased traffic, parking issues, and the suitability of the location. The city council president emphasized that the decision was made objectively and that our Constitution protects religious liberties. He further noted that the city received communications from individuals opposed to the masjid, but council treated the application like any other religious institution's request. Hamid Hassan, the board secretary of the Muslim Association, expressed relief and joy over the council's decision, highlighting the community's persistent efforts over 5 to 6 years to reach this point. And then when they finally get approval, here come old Whitey pulling up to complain about some shit, pulling right up. Well, I don't want them Muslims in my town. I don't want them Muslims in their Muslim ways getting in, interfering in my neighborhood and bringing down my property value. I don't want them Muslims and their Arabic and their skirts and their hijabs around my kids and around my school. What if one of them tries to blow up a school? Then what y'all gonna do? Who's gonna be responsible? You guys are gonna have blood on your hands, is what I imagine the people sound like. I could be wrong. But the approval marked a significant step for the Muslim community in the area. There are a lot of Muslims on that side of Cleveland, a lot. And having a masjid where people can go that's close to their home, we love to have masjids that are close to our home. We also like to have masjids that are close to where we work. So you will find masjids in and around the downtown Cleveland area, but also in neighborhoods where a lot of Muslims are concentrated. Not Muslim-centric neighborhoods. No, don't tell anybody. No, don't tell on us. But Muslims tend to congregate where their masjid is because the men have to go to the masjid on Friday for Jummah prayer. Have to. It's mandated, right? But they also like to do some of the daily prayers at the masjid. And there's also activities for families, and there's weddings, and then there's lectures. And speaking of lectures, speakers. Remember speakers? Remember when Muslims tried to invite a speaker to a masjid, and Mike Pompeo was upset. Well, here's another example, not involving Mike Pompeo, but in that same vein. The Chagrin Valley Islamic Center in Solon, Ohio, invited a speaker to their center. This was last year. His name is Imam Abdul Hakim Muhammad. He was going to speak at a fundraiser at Signature of Solon, benefiting the masjid, a fundraiser for the masjid. You know, they're nonprofits. They depend on donations. Sometimes to get donations, we'll have speakers come and encourage people to donate and get persuasive speeches, and knowledgeable Muslims will come and speak, and people will show up and, pull out the checkbook and put a bunch of zeros at the end of a number. The city of Solon convened a meeting of the city council and took comments from residents on the safety of the presence of this man in their city. Now, keep in mind, this was just about having a person come and speak at a masjid fundraiser. He wasn't moving in. He wasn't bringing it all in his suitcases and just setting up like a carnival. He just wanted to come speak at a fundraiser. Some of the residents who are Jewish alleged that the imam had made anti-Semitic remarks and anti-Christian remarks and accused the masjid of promoting anti-Semitism and radicalism. And I laugh because nothing could be further from the truth. I know many people who attend that masjid, in fact, and people who are saying that this masjid is promoting anti-Semitism and radicalism, radical extremism. You are so misguided and wrong and empty-headed. This is about Islamophobia. You fear them because they're Muslim. And for some reason, every time an imam or a scholar wants to do anything in the United States, and if they're from another country, they're Hamas, they're Houthi, they're ISIS, they're one of them SS people. They are anti-Semitic. Yes, anti-Semitic. They're radical Islamic extremists. They're Islamists. All you got to do is throw around them buzzwords and get people worked up into a frenzy. And instead of researching and using critical thinking and analyzing information, people just go right along with it. Oh, did you hear? They're inviting this guy who's anti-Jewish to their masjid. We should do something about this. I know. We'll convene a hearing of the city's council to discuss whether a masjid can have a speaker at a fundraiser. Why is government involving itself in this? This is one of those Congress shall make no laws type of shit. Why are you infringing upon the free exercise of religion? Why are you infringing upon the free exercise of religion? Solon, Ohio. The city leader ordered the masjid to release a statement condemning anti-Semitism, which, thank the Lord, the leaders of the masjid refused to do, because fuck you. You create a problem and then demand that we answer for the problem that you created. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. How about you not create problems for yourself or other people? How about you just mind your business? That's free. You don't need lawsuit money for that. You don't need lawsuit money when you mind your own damn business. But then the Anti-Defamation League got involved and they were like, we support it. It's fine. He's not anti-Semitic. And if we don't think he's anti-Semitic, then he's not anti-Semitic. So let the man speak. This is the same group that said that Elon Musk wasn't doing a Heil Hitler maneuver when he gave that speech after Trump had been installed as president. Yeah, the same group who saw what we all saw him do it several times. And they were like, yeah, no, it's not it. No, it's okay. It's okay. You guys can go on. It's okay. I guess they're the ones who determine what is anti-Semitism and what is not. So I don't know. Next time, just ask them. Of course, the fear is that Muslims will infiltrate a city, bringing their Muslim ways and their Muslim call to prayer and their Muslim clothes and make people feel all icky. Or they're going to grow sleeper cells of terrorists who plot and plan to blow up buildings and kill U.S. citizens like it's an episode of some cable TV show. What was that show called? Homegrown? Homeland? My homies? I don't know. Any TV show or movie about terrorism, I skip it. Fuck it. I'm not watching that shit. I'm tired of seeing that. Just like in the 80s where all of the action movies were about Russian terrorists and they all talk like this. I don't care about your new take on Middle East terror plots. I don't care. Please get out of my face. The Sharia, by the way, is not coming to the U.S. We don't do that shit here. Number one, we do practice Islam according to the Quran, but Did you know that Muslims are bound to respect the law of the land on which they are present? So yeah, when we have a problem with someone like trespassing on our property, we don't call the Quran police. We hit up 911. Hey, police, come get this guy who's trespassing on our property. We get married, give birth. Where do we register these things? With the state that we live in. Why? Because we are citizens, some of us, of the United States. We respect the laws of the land. We practice Islam according to the Quran and the Sunnah. That is the way of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But by golly, when we want to drive lawfully on the streets of our town, we go get a driver's license from the county of the state that we live in. We don't go to the Quran office and get a driver's license. It's dumb. You're dumb. You sound stupid when you say that. They're going to bring their Sharia law here and they're going to try to impose Sharia law. No, honey. No, please. We would first have to agree on what it is. You could pick 3 Muslims and they wouldn't be able to agree on what it encompasses. You could pick 3 Muslims and they each will be practicing Islam in a different way. The same basic tenets, Iman, Salat, Zakat, Hajj, fasting, same tenets, practiced differently. Pick 3 women, 3 Muslim women. Some will wear hijab, some won't. So we would first have to agree on what that law is before we could ever institute it. And we can't even agree on what it is. So rest your purty little head, honey. Rest now, child, my sweet summer child, and mind your fucking business. Mind your business, because you don't have lawsuit money. So just mind your business. There's no reason why the Department of Justice, the CIA, the state, the Texas Rangers, the baseball group, or the law enforcement agency should be investigating the building of a masjid. There's no reason whatsoever, except the word is Islamophobia. Islamophobia. The Council on American Islamic Relations received 8,061 complaints of anti-Muslim acts, bias, hatred in 2023, marking the highest number of complaints CARE has ever recorded in its 30-year history. Nearly half of all complaints received in 2023 were reported in the final 3 months of the year. That is when the war on Palestine started. In 2023, there was a wave of anti-Muslim incidents. A 56% jump over the previous year surpassed the period following the implementation of President Trump's Muslim ban, which saw a 32% jump over the previous year. It always coincides with something. Every time something happens, people decide that they want to hate Muslims. Why are you bothering us? Why are you targeting us? If there wasn't something else you were trying to implement, it's because you're trying to implement Christian nationalism and Islam and Muslims interfere with it. In the U.S., we've seen a dangerous shift towards Christian nationalism. People feel that their way of life is shrinking, and so they're going to push back by advancing this, using politicians and government to do so. Not only did the Republicans' white Christian base radicalize in the face of a perceived existential threat, but it effectively captured the party. Now what? It's not traditional America anymore. More, more, more. How do we protect both freedom of religion and freedom from government-imposed religion? And how do we ensure policies reflect the diversity of belief in America today? We do this by upholding the Establishment Clause and Free Exercise Clause. Remember, there are 2 parts to the First Amendment. Free Exercise Clause protects individuals' rights to practice their religion freely. The Establishment Clause prohibits the government from endorsing or establishing a religion. Together, they create a religious neutrality standard. Government cannot privilege or penalize any religion or lack there. We must enforce robust judicial review, as courts play a vital role in keeping the government in check. We have to challenge religious favoritism. So when we see these instances of white nationalism creeping up into government policy, We have to challenge this. Citizens and organizations can sue when laws or practices violate neutrality, such as requiring the 10 Commandments to be posted in public schools. You can even look up Google unconstitutional religious encroachments to find examples of what this looks like and see what your likelihood would be of successfully challenging a law that you feel like imposes on your ability to practice or to be free from intrusion into your practice. We also have to advocate for inclusive public policy. These policies should reflect America's religious diversity, including secular viewpoints. We have to include diverse religious and non-religious voices on advisory boards and civic panels, if for no other reason than to educate you ignorant motherfuckers. My God, if you're not going to read a book, at least listen to someone who is a part of the faith tell you how things are. We have to ensure that public resources and services are not tied to religious belief or practice. Also, civic literacy is important. I'm a big advocate for just reading a damn book. Schools should teach constitutional values, including the meaning of religious freedom and pluralism. You have to teach people how to think about these things properly. You have to teach them the right way. You have to promote accurate narratives about religious minorities and the secular basis of government. And hello, interfaith alliances. We have to foster coalitions between faith groups, humanists, atheists, and others, Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, Hindu, Buddhists, to defend mutual rights. We're all in this together, honey. We really are. This extremism comes for one and all. They're not going to stop at Muslims. They never just stop at one group. They never do. They will keep going until anything that isn't white, Christian, and conservative remains. We have to support organizations like the ACLU, which monitor and challenge religious discrimination or coercion. We protect religious freedom by ensuring the government stays neutral, that the government stays out of building a masjid. The only thing the government has to do with that is to give permits, grant permits, and grant permits equally, fairly. A masjid appealing for a building should not be treated any differently than a church or a synagogue or any other kind of temple. They should all be treated the same. The requests should all be treated the same. Epic City is just the latest and most glaring and most ridiculous, unbelievable example of this. Because now we have the U.S. Department of Justice involved in something before it even gets built. And here it is again. Do you got lawsuit money? We're living in a time where the Constitution and constitutional principles are not respected, but we should be protecting religious freedom by ensuring the government stays neutral and protects the religious and non-religious alike. Upholding these values ensures that America's increasingly diverse society remains inclusive, respectful, and free. Inclusive, respectful, and free. We have to ensure that America's increasingly diverse society remains inclusive, respectful, and free. And this has been Ayana Explains It All. Thank you for joining me on this episode. If you found it thought-provoking, be sure to subscribe and leave a review on our show's website, www.ayanaexplainsitall.com. You can also follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Yes, I do post a little bit of that. This show has been brought to you by facts, figures, and enlightenment. Take care.